Climactic chapter in an amazing script for Ohio State.
It's time to finish the job and finish the job with class.
100 minutes to kickoff in the season's most significant game so far.
Gameday is presented by Discover Card, proud sponsor of college football's premier pregame show.
The huge crowd swells outside the old horseshoe on the banks of the Olentangy. A classic confrontation. Michigan, Ohio State. The stakes have rarely been higher. The spirits have rarely been higher here in Columbus. Good morning and welcome to College Game Day. Chris Fowler, Lee Corso, Kirk Herbstreit. This is going to be a lot of fun. The Hawkeyes are watching. So are the Sooners and the Cougars and the Irish and the Bulldogs. The nation watching this game here today. Kirk, I don't know if anybody here slept last night. I don't know if you slept last night.
No, I think people have been waiting for this all week long. This is, you look at the weekend, college football rivalry weekend. I think you have to categorize this weekend. This is a rivalry about respect on the field, but out here it's about hatred. The fans can't stand each other. But remember, on the field, when you're a player in this game, it's about class. These teams will battle. It'll be the most intense game they play all year, the hardest hitting game that they play all year. And the thing to remember for Ohio State players and Michigan players, you're always remembered for how you play in this game.
You know, Kirk, as a Big Ten football coach, I always remember this ball game for Woody versus Bo, the epic battle of the teacher against the pupil. Those two strong-willed personalities, they overshadowed the players in this game. They were that big.
Those guys built this rivalry to what it is today, but you can see the coaching lineage in today's matchup. Lloyd Carr, schooled by Schembechler on this series for all those years. Jim Tressel learned from Earl Bruce, who learned from Woody Hayes. Both those guys had winning records against Michigan, and now Tressel in year 2 can beat Michigan back-to-back. Hasn't been done in 20 years and get him to a title game. But since Bo's second year, you know this, folks, Michigan a history of crushing Buckeye championship dreams.
They run it against those 8 men, and Bianca Batuka finds some space over the left side. Fires on a slant to Streets. His defensive man fell. He's gone! He's gone! 25-20. Touchdown, Michigan!
Can you feel it? The recent past is alive this morning, and it can't be banished by the bravery of a calm new coach. Only a victory can do that. So here stand the Buckeyes after Houdini escape, a heart-stopping overtime win on the road, back on home turf. And the scenario is simple. Ohio State, the first national title shot in 34 years, 60 minutes away. Tostitos Fiesta Bowl in Tempe. But There stands Michigan blocking that path to Tempe with the power to reduce a 12-0 start, in the words of some Buckeyes, to nothing. Whoever flinches fails, but this Buckeye bunch isn't shying away.
This whole year has been a year of career games. You know, it seems like every week we've continued to win, and in such dramatic fashion has been, you know, the biggest game of our career. To win on a 4th and 1, to win in an overtime have been career-defining games, and you know, this is the culmination of all of those games.
Every year, you know, we want to get that one up on them, because I mean, there's nothing like it. I mean, just the hatred. Not so much, I wouldn't say player to player, but, you know, just the hatred, you know, for people from Michigan and, you know, people from Ohio. It's wonderful, you know, and bad in the same instance.
You love it when Wilhelm calls this pressure, quote, ideal. None of the Buckeyes are thinking about this recent history of Michigan destroyed Ohio State dreams of conference and national titles. The Wolverines appear bound for the Outback Bowl, win or lose, but motivation's no issue here. And as underdogs for the first time this year, don't label the 9-2 Wolverines spoilers.
We're not going down and trying to spoil anything. We win this game, it's a great season for us. A 10-2 season in the Big Ten's a great record, but obviously we have a lot of work to do in order to do that. But we're not going down thinking spoiled. We're going down there thinking, let's finish off a great season.
Whether a team was 12-0 or 0-12, we're still going to take as much pride as we want in this game, because we're focused on our goals and what we want to accomplish.
We have our own goals and our own things that we strive for, and you know, we don't occupy ourselves with what other people are doing. You know, we just kind of keep in control what we can do.
Rooting against Brutus and the Buckeyes today, the Iowa Hawkeyes, who crushed Michigan. They would win the conference title outright if Michigan can knock off Ohio State.
You know, recently the Michigan helmet has been a sign of power over the Buckeyes, much like kryptonite did to Superman. Yeah, it made him But now, Jim Tressel, he did a great job last year. He worked a miracle by beating Michigan in Michigan. Now, from a coach's standpoint, that gives Jim and his staff the blueprint mentally and physically what to do this year. I think no more trial and error. I think they know what to do, how to beat Michigan, and I think that's a tremendous advantage for Jim Tressel.
What was that? That's what they made them do. You're right. I mean, if you go back and you think about the John Cooper era, you know, I was there, I lived it. I think Ohio State as players, they approached the game hoping not to lose, playing not to lose, and I think even coaching not to lose. The win last year was huge for Jim Tressel and for this team. If you've watched the Buckeyes this year, they've been able to focus week to week. In the past, teams and players and fans have worried about Michigan back in September. This year it's been week to week. The thing that everybody's overlooking is this team has survived the road at Illinois, at Purdue. They're coming home to Columbus, and when you come back to Columbus, this team has responded. They play much better when they're at home in front of these fans.
They do. And maybe the first mistake, and they don't feel like the gray sky has fallen on them. Let's talk game plan overview. Both defenses appear to have the edge over the opposing offenses. So how do you play it, Lee? Do you play it cautious or do you play it creative?
Well, from a coach's standpoint, my attitude in a ball game like this one, a big one, was to open up by attacking the opponent at their strength and trying to make them blink. And if I felt I could do that, then my team became proactive and not reactive. So don't be surprised if Old Michigan doesn't attack the Ohio State with the run early and then pass in specials. But get them in the middle first.
If either team tries to attack the strength, we'll have a 3-0 game with 4 first downs. These teams would be crazy to run at each other. They're going to have to throw the football, then go back to the run. The defense of Michigan against the Ohio State offensive line is too big an advantage for Michigan. Ohio State has to throw and vice versa. For Michigan to have any chance at all of running the football, John Navarro's got to throw to set up their run. I disagree with you.
That's okay.
Hey, Lee, I hate to tell you, Kirk and I talked to even Bo last night, and even Bo said maybe open it up.
That's old school there.
Bo says open it up.
He did. If Bo says open up, that's it.
He said that from Florida, didn't he?
No, he was watching the hockey game last night. Meanwhile, Miami, we saw them Thursday night. They're still 2 steps away, 2 wins away at Syracuse and home Virginia Tech from perhaps getting to that Tostitos Fiesta Bowl. We saw them survive a good Pittsburgh team despite 49 offensive plays. They said, their fans, not the players, they said, bring on the Buckeyes. We need by 3 touchdowns. No problem.
Not so fast, my friend. I've seen Miami play 3 times this year, and they're a very good football team. But mark it down, they're not a great football team. I think any one of the top teams that play them in the Fiesta Bowl, including these Buckeyes, will give them all they can handle.
See, and that's great here for the fans. I'm not going to ride this emotional roller coaster with Miami. 2 weeks ago, we watched them, and Lee and I sat there and said, forget about it. That's the best team in college football. Nobody's close to them. Now, a week later, they have a close game against a good Pitt team, and you're saying anybody can play with them.
Any one of the qualified guys.
You got to have a defense, and it didn't hurt Pittsburgh having an athletic quarterback like Rod Rutherford. That was a big factor in that game.
Miami can sit back and watch and scout today. They have nothing at stake. Their place is secure if they get 2 more wins. But national storyline today, a whole bunch of folks are pulling for Michigan. Title contenders facing their own high-stakes showdowns today. BCS 3 Wazoo can clinch at least the Rose Bowl by snapping a 4-year skid against the hated Huskies. The Dogs, meanwhile, they're loose, they're dangerous, they're hunters today and plenty confident. The Sooners can claim defensive redemption and a division title by cooling off Cliff Kingsbury and the Red Raiders, the Big 12 South title game.
It's over. The Red Raiders have upset the Longhorns.
For Bama, bragging rights and respect will have to replace SEC rings. The Tide can clinch unofficial best in the West by taking down the Tigers. That's all ahead on Rivalry Game Day from Columbus. Coming up.
Today's show, presented by Discover Card. Good luck to everyone who sent in a 1-minute audition for the Discover Card Get You on Game Day Challenge.
Back in Columbus, where the Wolverines always get a warm welcome. Lloyd Carr says the same fan with the same friendly sign waits for him every year outside that bus in the Horseshoe. That game's on ABC. On ESPN 2 today, a triple header. Air Force, Las Vegas Bowl bound. Ole Miss and LSU will hit on that game later. The Terps rolling in with an 8-game win streak, but Virginia quarterback Matt Schaub has a hot hand. Top-rated passer in the ACC. Maryland looking at their first win in Charlottesville since 1990, where Pam Ward and Chris Spielman set the scene.
2 old rivals are meeting for the 67th time, most likely with second place in the ACC, and a Gator Bowl bid are on the line. Maryland is red hot, coming in having won 8 straight football games. One big reason why has been the play of their special teams. Steve Suter has tied an NCAA record, returning 4 punts for touchdowns this season. He leads the ACC both in punt returns and kickoff returns. Virginia coach Al Gross says his biggest concern is trying to counter the Terps special teams, which he credits for at least 2 Terrapin wins this season. Suter isn't the only weapon that Virginia has to contend with. The kicking game is potent. Brooks Bernard leads the conference in punting. The best punter in Maryland history has been vital in pinning opponents back in poor field position. Kicker Nick Novak leads the ACC. He's hit on 84% of his field goals. Chris?
Pam, thank you. The Terps can just about secure a Gator Bowl with a win, perhaps against Pittsburgh. The Cavaliers are thinking Peach Bowl with a victory. Maryland can still get a piece of the ACC title if NC State ends a 3-game skid against Florida State.
Maryland's one of those teams right now, if we had a playoff or something at the end of the year, you wouldn't want to play Maryland. They have improved as much as anybody in the country. The defense has been suffocating, allowing the fewest touchdowns in the ACC. And Scott McBride and this offense continue each week to get better and better. Outstanding balance. They'll win today big over Virginia. I like this Maryland team.
Well, Florida State's won 3 ball games in a row with a red-hot combination of quarterback Adrian McPherson and his receiver Anquan Bolden. Now, in the last 3 ball games, these 2 guys have combined 4, 5 touchdowns, and here's one of them. Bolden, a former running quarterback, watch his athletic ability after he catches this ball on this 43-yard touchdown run. Now, Florida State has not turned the ball over in the last 2 games, and that's good news for them. They're playing their best football. Florida State beats North Carolina State and goes to New Orleans in the Sugar Bowl as the ACC champion.
Yeah, that's the buzz. If they win today, they want to avoid a potential rematch with Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl. And, you know, NC State, why are they losing? One-dimensional. No running game. It's disappeared.
TA the last 3 weeks has been gone. Non-factor.
Yep. But as for Duke and Carolina, basketball season's here. Tar Heels in the preseason NIT as both meet 0-7 in football.
What has happened?
Hey, and where else, by the way?
What is Mac Brown's not that bad a guy after all?
I guess not. Where else but the wacky SEC West can you sandwich two humiliating losses around a once-in-a-million narrow escape and still control your own destiny? We're talking about LSU, which hosts reeling Ole Miss today. The Rebels have dropped 4 straight. Eli Manning 2 more picks than last season and 14 fewer touchdowns. Like LSU, Arkansas can win out and win the West, and the Hogs get the Tigers in Little Rock after visiting 0-6 Mississippi State today. But little doubt the dominant team out west has been Alabama. The Tide are openly vindictive about it too. Santonio Beard says they want the winner of the SEC West to walk into the Georgia Dome knowing they're not worthy as the true champs, that Bama is the better team. Tony Barnhart joins us now from T-Town. Tony, I'll tell you, from my point of view, those few boosters that got Alabama very close to the death penalty, they don't deserve a team this good with this much heart, but you got to be happy and proud of what the players are doing.
Yeah, well, amen, brother. Preach on that. You know, the old coach Gene Stallings told me a long time ago, what makes this game special is they talk about it on Thanksgiving, they talk about it on Christmas, they talk about it on New Year's Day, and they talk about it on the 4th of July. The people in this state live this game 365 days a year. And if you talk to the players like we did this week, you'll find out that for my money, this is the most intense rivalry in all of college football.
I just wish everybody could experience this game. It's just something that, you know, just means so much to not only the players but the fans. And there's a lot of rivalries, but you know, I don't know if any of them, are year-round rivalries like this one is.
On the two-deep lineup for both teams, 38 players hail from the state of Alabama. And for them, this game will define their college football careers.
This rivalry is bigger than Florida State, Florida, Ohio State, Michigan. You just can't compare this bowl to none of them games. And I think it's going to be a lot of blood on the field. You know, it's going to be a lot of fighting. Both teams are going to be going at each other's throats. And, you know, it doesn't matter what the record is.
Now, if Auburn's going to win this game, guys, they're probably going to have to do without a couple of their weapons. Fullback Brandon Johnson, he's got a bad ankle after the Georgia game. I don't think he's going to play at all, and the word does not look good on tailback Ronnie Brown. He's also got an ankle. And if that happens, guys, if those guys can't go, Kirk, then all the pressure falls on sophomore quarterback Jason Campbell, and that could be very tough for Auburn.
Tony, in the Bear Bryant Museum this morning, things kind of quiet. You like Bama to win?
I like Bama to win easy.
Easy, okay. I think a lot of people feel the same, Tony, because of the way their defense is playing right now. Carl Torvich, the defensive coordinator, has the Crimson Tide flying around. You're right. To be able to move the ball at all on Bama, you have to be able to not only run, but also throw. You need balance. And right now, I think Auburn's relying too much on the ground game, and this is what happens when you rely too much on the ground game. Jared Johnson, hello, LSU. LSU had a similar problem last week. They wanted to run the ball. Look at Jared Johnson. And if he didn't make the play, there are about 4 other Crimson jerseys there. With or without the injuries to the running backs of Auburn, this Alabama defense will lead them to a victory. Bama, I know it's a rivalry game, but Bama wins big again, 2nd year in a row.
Talk about that Alabama great defense. That's one of the reasons they won 5 straight ball games. Alabama's only lost 2 games to 2 top 5 BCS teams, Oklahoma and Georgia, by a total of 12 points. I agree. Tide destroys War Eagle big.
Twice.
So all 3 of you guys, like Alabama?
Come on.
Absolutely.
Come on.
Give it to us.
No, Alabama wins. Elsewhere, Arkansas hosting Mississippi State. A lot of reports about Jackie Sherrill's departure, perhaps his buyout / retirement. These are big trouble at Little Dewey's down there in Starkville.
Well, I hope not. I hope that Mississippi State keeps Jackie Sherrill, because I'm telling you, where is Mississippi State going to find a better football coach than Jackie Sherrill, who's won 178 games? Nowhere. They don't win today. Arkansas beats them.
They don't win today. Things are down right now for Jackie. But you're right. If he leaves, who can you imagine coming in trying to invigorate this team and this program? Arkansas not only beats Mississippi State to keep their hopes alive, I think they go on next Friday and beat LSU, and I think they'll go to the SEC championship game.
Well, Ole Miss is at LSU today. And if the Bayou Bengals ever want to face their fans again, they need a W today.
Ole Miss can't run. They can't play defense. All they got is Eli Manning passing. Not good. Tigers, big.
Eli Manning, such a talented player.
What a great player.
We'll get a chance to see next week in the Egg Bowl. Maybe they rally the troops and try to get together for the Egg Bowl. I'm with you, LSU.
Big. Well, speaking of Eli Manning and quarterback scrutiny, coming up on Game Day from Columbus here, we'll visit with Michigan's John Navarre on trying to silence those maize and blue bluebirds.
I treat it as, hey, this is part of being the Michigan quarterback. And that's the way I treated it. And I didn't think that this is rock bottom.
The QB in the crosshairs of Norman is K squared. The Red Raiders are Texas State champs, but they're playing at Oklahoma today. And can the tall targets of Washington State, can they feast on a patchwork secondary of Washington in the Apple Cup? A lot more coming up from Columbus.
No, Haynes, you rinky-dink. Get up. A senior, and you don't know how to whip a block? Give me a three-point stance. Come on, get back. Blow the whistle, coach. That's how you do it. Son, you have got to get down low underneath your man and straighten him up.
That follows the Heisman show. There's one of your Groza finalists, Mike Nugent, 24 of 26. He missed his first two of the season in Illinois. Here he is 17 of 17. He's kicked 8 of them beyond 40 yards, 8 school records. But he's never had the chance to kick a game winner in the last minutes. Today, maybe?
Any game you're playing, as long as if it comes down to that last kick, there's going to be a lot of pressure on you. But I haven't felt that this season all the way yet. But I mean, in the next 2 games, this last game or the bowl game, it could happen. I mean, it could come down to something like that because we've been playing great teams this year, and we will in the future. So there's always going to be a lot of pressure, but you just got to be calm and stay consistent.
He's been totally consistent, the former Centerville Elk. You heard of that high school, right, Kirk? What about special teams, Lee? You're always talking about kickers, you guys.
It's huge. I want to know if Michigan gets into 4th and 2 at about the 22-yard line, are they going to go for it, or are they going to kick a field goal? Ohio State has the best tandem of a punter and a field goal kicker in the nation. Has a big advantage for Ohio State.
Well, Kirk, here's an interesting note. Over 70% of the rules in the rule book pertain to the kicking game. So well-coached football teams that know the rules win close games. I think the kicking game will be the difference in these two teams' advantage. Ohio State.
Yeah, Chris Gamble thinks he can take a punt back today. On the Michigan side, you mentioned it, their field goal kickers are 8 for 20 on the season. I mean, Adam Finley, who's the punter, becomes the kicker today. He's a little bit better than the other 2 guys, but 8 for 20?
Not good.
That's what I'm saying.
Beyond 40?
What are you doing? Like I said, you get around the 20, 22. Everybody's kicking field goals. Does Michigan try to go for it, or do you kick a field goal and give the chance to give the ball back to Ohio State?
Well, one place where field goals are not on folks' mind today is Pullman. The 95th Apple Cup features the Pac-10's top 2 offenses and the career passing leaders at each school. When you figure the guys that Jason Gesser and Cody Pickett have passed, everybody from Moon to Bledsoe, Brunell, Chandler, Heward, Rosenbaugh, Leaf, Jack Thompson, the throw-in Samoan, the throw-in Hawaiian, Gesser, and Cowboy Cody combined have 101 touchdowns and more than 14,000 career yards. They become phone buddies, but not this week. There's just too much at stake. For the Cougs, the Rose Bowl and national title hopes, the Huskies can turn a disastrous season into one that's merely disappointing. Rick Neuweisel and every Husky perfect against Wazoo.
It is a little bit of a role reversal, but you know, the attitudes haven't changed much. You know, we're just going in there to win, and it doesn't matter what the record is. Really, we're just we have the same mindset of being victorious.
No matter what your record is, you just better strap it on, get ready for this, you know, for the Apple Cup. You know, it's a great rivalry, you know, and, you know, every single year is just, you know, something that you always want to, that's the one game you definitely want to win.
Washington State's great season, and the fact that they've got great postseason opportunities, obviously there's going to be lots of excitement.
Huskies played some good defense last week, but let's face it, it was mostly bad Oregon offense. And you've got a wide receiver, Wilbur Hooks, who learned the defense last week watching tape with safety Greg Carruthers starting at free safety. As LC would say, yo, Wilbur and company have to try to corral a trio of wide receivers at Washington State that have 129 catches and 20 touchdowns between them. The trio took some strange winding paths to start them. An ex-Hoops recruit, a junior college guy who was at 3 different schools in LA, and a transfer from across the continent at Florida State. Let's meet them, shall we?
Who are we? We're tall. We're real tall.
You real, that's league. I'm 6'3".
I'm 6'6".
I'm 6'2".
We're not basketball players. We're the Wazoo Wideouts.
I'm DeVar Darling.
DeVar Darling on the field, you know what I mean? He's a strong wide receiver. He's fast, he runs by everybody. I mean, I don't know a corner that can keep up with him. I'm Mike Bush.
As soon as he step out on the field, he got an advantage. He's 6'6". And so, you know.
I'm Jerome Riley. One word is smooth.
Overall, the best all-around wide receiver out of all of us. That's what I believe. You know, he got
do his head.
He got good routes. He got everything. You know, he's just smooth out there. And we run the offense. Without us, the offense won't move. That's the way I feel.
There's no path that we can't go get just because, you know what I mean, we have an advantage being taller. Most of the corners we play.
We can throw a jump ball, and whether it's a perfect ball or not, on the fade, they'll go up and make a catch. Our leaping ability is just natural. It's just athletic ability, just something we was born with.
I really don't know how high I can jump, you know what I mean? I can touch the top of the square on the back of
You 6'6".
I'm probably like 38 inches and stuff like that. What, Texas, that's how high I can jump, 38 inches. 38 inches, that's my vertical. 33.
Whatever, I got the most ups out of all of them. So.
He's not a very good dunker.
Whatever, I got the most ups.
Please don't.
We're unstoppable. That's how I feel. This trio. You got Bush 6'6". You got Bush 6'6". You have DeVar 6'3", fast, running 4'3". Bush with the ups. Then me, just everything.
And that's who we are.
Now, the Washington folks believe that their trio of wide receivers, of course, Reggie Williams, Charles Frederick, and Paul Arnold, are as good or better. They actually have more catches, 149 catches, more than the Wazoo guys. And you got Kevin Ware as a very good tight end as well. So.
Well, you know, if Washington's going to hang in this football game, they've got to be able to score with Jason Gesser and those Coug wide receivers, which means get the football to Reggie Williams. That's the key in this game. Reggie Williams is coming off a career game. Washington went into Eugene last weekend, and Pickett's been getting it done as a quarterback, but Williams consistent all year, but just a game where he dominated the Oregon secondary. You got to remember one thing about this game. It's not only a rivalry game. Washington State, I think, was a little bit overconfident when they played in the Apple Cup a year ago, and they blew it. They've been waiting a full year for a chance to get back at the Dogs. Washington State at home wins, and wins big today over Washington.
Good pick. You know, Pickett and Williams are 2 sensational Pac-10 offensive stars. Washington State's Bill Doba, the defensive coordinator, has put in 2 defenses to try to contain those guys. They're new, but the key guys are number 88, Ryan Long, who was recently named All-American defensive end. He's going to pressure Pickett. Now, Marcus Trufant will man up on Williams the best he can. He's a good-looking athlete. Now, in the past 2 weeks, Washington has won the state championship of Oregon. This game's in Pullman. I agree. State big over the Huskies.
Only mistakes can hurt them. They're superior to the Huskies in the trenches on both sides of the ball.
Revenge is huge.
Yeah, but just can't do that. You got to play loose.
Not at home.
USC and UCLA, the Battle of Los Angeles. Both teams really need a Huskies win to keep Rose Bowl hopes alive. Even the Bruins are alive there. We talked to Pete Carroll last night. He says Carson Palmer, with 2 wins, should win the Heisman Trophy. He should be the top pro prospect in the draft. He's a little biased, I know. But
he could be. He could be by the time they get done. The bottom line is he gets Mike Williams back healthy at 100%. He's had a great freshman year. Carson Palmer, Mike Williams, too much for the Bruins. I think the Bruins will hang around, but SC's too good on both sides.
That's a good pick. I want to give you an interesting stat here. Under Bob Toledo, listen to this. The Bruins have won 2 games in November this year. That's the most. That's the same amount that they won in the last 3 years in November.
So,
is that amazing? So I'm saying, not so fast. Okay. Well coached, rested. USC, too much talent.
Freshman quarterbacks against that USC defense. That would be tough. The off day at Arizona, where last week's win tasted sweet, but it wasn't a cure-all. Trustees met last night to discuss issues in the program with Coach John Makovic and some player unrest. Meanwhile, it's still pretty evident that the Wildcats' generation gap has not yet been bridged.
between personalities and maybe even time frame and era. You know, he's from a different, you know, we would say Stone Age. You know, we're from the new school, and it's different. It's different. You know, we bump heads a lot with him.
I've already taken a position that I'm going to eat, I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to embrace what has to be done. But do I have to change the world? No, I don't think that's necessarily the case.
Now, talk of a possible player walkout against Arizona State. That's calmed down. Bobby Wade, one Wildcat, said, we don't want our moms yelling at us, so we're going to play. Comforting to know that fear of mom keeps you from walking out against a rival, but there's still some issues there, obviously.
Well, you know, one of the issues was that Dick Tomey, the former coach, communicated with some of his former players. I don't see that as a problem. When I took over Indiana, the former coach John Pont, he talked to his players all the time for a couple of reasons. Number one, he was a great guy, and number two, he knew him better than I did. I never was threatened by John Pont talking to his players. He should have.
I agree. Tomey, though, he says he's not saying anything to cause unrest. He's saying keep your head up and go play Arizona State. But still, situation to be watched there. One of the guys we're going to be watching is B.J. Askew, an Ohio native playing on Michigan. Plenty more on the big showdown coming up from Columbus. John Navarre knows the Buckeye defense, 10th in the Big Ten in passing. That's misleading. They're great in every other category, and especially smothering in the second half. We asked the leading tackler why.
Being undefeated, you know, every team offensively is going to come out and give you something different. And, you know, there's times in the first half where we're kind of reeling. You know, we just need someone to step up and make a play. You know, going into halftime, we get to regroup. You know, the coaches come down from the box and just break down what, you know, what small things they're doing to us. And the majority of the time, you know, it's on us as players. You know, it's mental mistakes. And, you know, and it's a testament to our great coaching. You know, they coach us up at halftime big time.
Look at the last two home games. The opponents, Minnesota and Penn State, no points allowed, very few yards, 1 of 14 on third down. How do they do it, Kurt?
This is a defense. Remember, they're in their second year in the system. That helps them with experience. It's also a veteran defense who's been around. The coaches like to refer to it as recall. They get into a game. There's a 9 times out of 10, you have an offense that's going to come out, throw a couple new wrinkles. Because these guys are familiar with the system and because they're experienced, they've seen the spread, they've seen the wishbone, they've seen about every offense the team has to offer. So at halftime, they can make adjustments, and they're able to have that recall to go back out in the second half and make the adjustments and apply them.
You can ask Jason Gesser about that, too. They really struggled in the second half. Talking about defense, a great test for a defense today is in Norman. You think Stoops' troops want a little bit of atonement after getting torched by Texas A&M freshman Reggie McNeil? Today, it's Texas Tech senior Cliff Kingsbury with 39 school records, 13 conference records, and 7 NCAA records. He's also a late-charging Heisman contender. K-squared off one of Texas Tech's landmark wins ever, fully aware that OU squashed Sims and Seneca Wallace.
They're a great defense. They have great athletes. They run a lot of zone blitzes, things of that nature. So it's a tough scheme to deal with, but, you know, we feel good. We feel like our offense is playing good, but we know it's a tough matchup.
The biggest thing is keeping Cliff Kingsbury off the field. For taking care of the football and moving up and down the field, it limits their scoring chances.
Whoever comes out on top in this game is going to have the chance to go to Houston and play in the Big 12 championship, and that's what you play Big 12 football for.
The winner does get Colorado. This is Tech's finale today. The Sooners would clinch before the Bedlam game with Oklahoma State. Now, Leach's spread hasn't exactly baffled his old colleagues at Oklahoma, but Kingsbury does have the hot hand coming in.
Boy, does he have a hot hand. Kingsbury was unbelievable against Texas last week, and you would expect him to do the same thing against Oklahoma this week. Not so fast, my friends. Watch this. Kingsbury had 6 touchdowns versus Texas. Oklahoma's allowed only 7 all year, and Oklahoma backs their quick. They get 20 interceptions. I think Tech will score a few and look pretty good, but our friends at Oklahoma will score more and win. Oklahoma wins.
One of the reasons Cliff Kingsbury had such a huge game last week against Texas, they play man coverage, and they didn't apply any pressure. You combine man coverage and very little pressure, you're going to give up a lot of yards. Today against Oklahoma, it'll be a whole different story against Oklahoma's zone blitz scheme. Mike Stoops, the defensive coordinator, is the king of this all throughout the country. He is very good at coming up, disguising coverages, and then applying pressure, but at the same time, playing a soft zone behind it. Now, I think Kingsbury will put up some yards. But remember, this Oklahoma defense, when they get challenged, they respond. They're being challenged this week with the Big 12 championship game on the line. And also remember last year, they controlled their own destiny to get to the title game and blew it against Oklahoma State in Norman. That will not happen for the second time. That's been the rallying call, and that's why Oklahoma wins today over Texas Tech.
Yeah, at home, they have 10 picks, only allowed 2 touchdown passes. You talk destiny, they don't have control of it right now.
They're coming.
But just in case Michigan pulls the upset, just in case Washington State loses, at the end of the day, Oklahoma could be right back up there in position for the BCS title game. Something to remember in the Sooner Nation. Coming up on College Game Day, we will find out what drives Larry Johnson of Penn State, the all-time and single-season rushing leader at Happy Valley. And what's up with Maurice Clarett? This season's been the best and the worst at times for the Buckeye freshman. How does he feel today? How will he run? That's coming up from C-Town. Now, some folks here in Columbus are a mile high in more ways than one. At the old Mile High, the Broncos and the Colts. Tomorrow night, ESPN Sunday Night Football. The ex-Wolverine Brian Greasy is a no-go. Furline starts at quarterback. Joining us now, 2 very special guests. The only 2-time Heisman Trophy winner ever representing the Buckeyes, Archie Griffin, and the second all-time leading rusher in Michigan history, Jamie Morris. Kirk?
Chris, and these guys not only great players, but now both working for their respective schools. And Arch, we'll start with you. Undefeated against Michigan.
Right.
Going back and thinking about your playing days, what was your greatest memory as a player?
Well, probably my greatest memory as a player against Michigan was not a memory where I had a great game. It was actually my senior year in 1975. And we came from behind to beat Michigan 21-14. Offensively, we didn't do a great job all day, but that last drive we had an opportunity to move the ball down the field and score. And Cornelius Green did a great job that drive. And then Michigan got desperate because we tied it up 14-14, and they needed to beat us in order to go to the Rose Bowl. So they went to passing, and they threw a pass right to my younger brother Ray, and he took it down about the 3-yard line, and then Big Pete took it over from there. So we won the game 21-14.
That's great. Jamie, 1986, for Michigan fans, a great memory. Jim Harbaugh, early in the week, predicts a victory. You bail him out, 210 yards with a couple scores. What kind of memory is that for you?
Well, that's a great memory happening here in this stadium and everything like that. And I just remember we lost to Minnesota that week, the week before, and Jimmy just tried to get this team going. And, you know, I was able to, we had some big boys up front, and we were able to open some holes and allow me to run the ball.
That was a phenomenal game. I remember it vividly. Unfortunately, at that time as a young Ohio State fan. Now, you guys, we're all talking about keys to the game. Quickly, key from you and a key from the Arch. What do you think?
Well, I think the key is how our quarterbacks play. I mean, I think our quarterback's going to have to play a great game, and as well as get the ball to some of our receivers.
Okay, what do you think, Jamie?
The key, coming from a running back, Archie understands this. It's the offensive line and defensive line. Who controls the line of scrimmage is the key, and it goes down to the running game. Whoever wins the rushing war wins this game, I think.
And I've been saying this game, it's hatred maybe out here, but on the field, it's respect. I think you guys would agree with
me. It is, absolutely.
All right, Chris, let's go.
Kirk, thank you. These guys have been appreciative of a Big Ten running star this year. You know, Penn State's Larry Johnson, he's got a shot at 2,000 yards. Yeah, he needs 264 today, but Michigan State's run defense 100 out of 117, and already Johnson's had 257, 279, and 327 in single games. Jopa seems to be willing to let him roll for milestones. Johnson's a Happy Valley hometown hero, an assistant coach's son with the cojones to question his head coach publicly as a freshman. Here's Scott Van Pelt and the Lion who never pulls his punches.
For 4 years, Larry Johnson's emotions ran wild. Penn State fans made him angry.
I got it a lot. You know, he's only here because, you know, his dad pulled some strings to get him here.
Splitting time disappointed him.
Not be able to get my chance until now and had me kind of, you know, feisty.
And a conservative offense had him frustrated.
I think Larry said what a lot of us felt, and it's just that he chose to say it to the press.
Larry Johnson! Larry Johnson is unbelievable. The unstoppable number 5.
But this season, it's Larry Johnson who's been running wild to the tune of 1,736 yards rushing. Learning to control his emotions has made Johnson uncontainable.
That's mostly about, you know, intensity, you know, putting it all in the wrong places, but I think now I'm putting it in the right places.
Nowhere had Johnson been more emotional than on the Penn State practice field. Joe Paterno threw Johnson out of practice countless times in his first 4 seasons when his aggressive behavior led to fights with his teammates.
It didn't matter if it was the best guy on the team, if it was a senior or if it was another freshman, he was going to try to prove that he was tougher and that he could intimidate you.
This season, Johnson has used his running style to intimidate his opponents, going right through tacklers instead of avoiding them.
He runs like he's mad at the world, and he runs with that nasty attitude, and he prefers to hit you in the mouth and run around you.
Although Johnson hasn't been thrown out of practice since being named the starting tailback last spring, he still has a difficult time finding a teammate to do drills with.
You come out to practice today and we pair up, he's going to be with our manager. I know he will because he goes all out. He'll pancake the manager. He's a all-out player.
I don't care if it's Coach Paterno runs across the field from or across the line from him. He's not going to let up on anyone.
Johnson shattered the Penn State records for yards rushing in a game and a season, drawing comparisons to Franco Harris and Lydell Mitchell.
Certainly Larry Johnson is up there in the very top echelon, not only of Penn State running backs, but I think of running backs that have played in college football in the last 30, 35 years that I've watched.
LJ pancaking Paterno in practice. I'd like to see that. He's an emotional guy at senior day. He wants a big emotional send-off. 264. That's probably an ungodly 7.5 a carry. He's got a shot.
He's got a shot. Chris, I think Johnson's the best all-around running back in the nation. He leads the nation in all-purpose yards with over 2,000 yards. I think he's going to be a great pro. Oh, by the way, Penn State by 3 touchdowns today.
I think he might be physically the most talented running back in the country. I've said Chris Brown because of what he's up against every week, facing those 8- and 9-man fronts. Yeah, I think the Heisman Trophy race for him, what hurts him is his 3 biggest games, Iowa, Michigan, and Ohio State. He averaged 70 yards in those games. That'll hurt him, but you're right. What a great future he has. He's not maybe going to get to 2,000, but he'll get over 200 yards today for Penn State. They win big.
He's 8 behind Chris Brown for the rushing lead. Brown probable against Nebraska next Friday. We'll talk some more Heisman coming up, but also ahead, the bedlam and the still bitterness of the play.
Oh, the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone. He's gone into the end zone. Will it count? The Bears have won. The Bears have won.
Ah, the Wolverines! Almost it. John Navarre doesn't want to run into the band. He just wants to make some memories of his own against the Buckeyes. We'll meet both quarterbacks ahead.
College Game Day is presented by Discover Card, proud sponsor of college football's premier pregame show.
There's more Big Ten elsewhere. Following us, Gophers, Badgers. Minnesota surrendered the jug and the pig. 1 trophy left. Paul Bunyan's axe, which they own for now. We now axe Bob Davie and Mark Jones for a preview.
Well, guys, here on the banks of Lake Mendota and Monona, a sense of urgency and immediacy pervades the atmosphere. Head coach Barry Alvarez and his Badgers trying to poke and prod their way to one more victory. And senior quarterback Brooks Bollinger has to have a good game.
Brooks Bollinger's had a tremendous career here at Wisconsin. He has been to 2 Rose Bowls, and he's the winningest quarterback in Wisconsin history. He doesn't want today to be his last game, though. And for Wisconsin to win and go to a bowl game, Brooks Bollinger must play well.
As for head coach Glenn Mason of the Minnesota Golden Gophers, last year this time they were 4-7. What a great turnaround for them, but their quarterback, Asad Abdul-Khalik, is pivotal in their success.
Asad Abdul-Khalik had tremendously high expectations coming into this season. Because of injuries, he's been a little bit up and down. The great news for Minnesota, though, he's healthy and he played extremely well last week against Iowa.
And the object of everyone's affections, the axe wielded by the legendary lumberjack, Paul Bunyan. Guys, back to you.
All right, Mark, Badgers, one of several teams that must win to be bowl eligible. BYU Utah is an ESPN.com webcast. South Carolina Clemson on ESPN2. The last 18 meetings, the team with a better record has won. That's Clemson this year. Tommy Bowden 2-1 against Holtz. Of course, right here today, 2 sturdy defenses, 2 inconsistent running games. All the pressure, the high stakes, even more scrutiny than usual on the 2 quarterbacks. One or both of these guys is going to have to step out of their calm, efficient game management MOs and make some plays. Now, for John Navarre, inside the shoe, warming up right now. He was brought to tears on the sidelines by a 5-turnover meltdown last year. Facing the Buckeyes again makes this the biggest day of his life. Can he muzzle his many maize and blue critics?
This isn't a quarterback who's capable of making plays. This is a quarterback who you're asking not to lose games for you.
You see why the crowd's booing.
Everyone always wants someone to blame if, we're not beating people 55-0.
Still doesn't quite have that starting quarterback look, that they're used to at Michigan. He wasn't Henson, he wasn't Greasy, he wasn't Tom Brady.
It's not a solid play by the quarterback.
He faces it every day. He goes to class with the same kids who are booing him, and I think it got to him, mentally.
I treat it as, hey, this is part of being the Michigan quarterback. And that's the way I treated it. And I think that this is rock bottom.
John Navarre has discovered when a Michigan quarterback fails to meet expectations, the big house transforms from a sea of supporters to a cascade of criticism.
I think it got to the point where it kind of affected John's play at some point, and it's tough not to let those 110,000 people get to you.
More is expected of you than probably any other position or any other quarterback playing at any other school.
I play with Tom Brady. I did the same thing to him. He won the Super Bowl MVP, and now he's, a folklore around here.
You have to accept the scrutiny. People are going to get on you. If you don't want the cross-examination like that, play at Ferris State here, or play Division III football.
Michigan head coach Lloyd Carr echoed those thoughts to Navarre during a pivotal offseason meeting.
Well, I simply tried to tell John, that the expectations weren't going to change, that it was never easy to be the quarterback at Michigan.
You got to be a tough guy. Mentally tough is one of the things I really stress. And you got to have a thick skin and be able to handle the pressure and play well.
A lot of the criticism has been unfair. I think it's been unjust, but it happens to be the way it is, and you have to be able to deal with that, or else you don't have a chance to be successful.
Intercepted. The ball's on the toe, picked off. And Navarre dejected as he walks off.
During the Ohio State game last year, I wrote that John had peed in his pants in the first half.
That graphic description was inspired by Navarre's 4 interceptions in a loss that illustrated his inadequacy to fans and critics. This Buckeye battle offers him a chance of redemption.
That's how Michigan football players' career is ultimately defined. If you beat the Buckeyes, you're going to be a hero in Ann Arbor.
If he comes out of that game with a win, I think he definitely brings himself up a notch in terms of fan perception and I think national perception.
It'd be great, but they'd still be mad if they still wouldn't like John. So, it doesn't matter. But everybody wants to be loved, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I think you got to be patient, and that day will come down the road. The rewards will be greater if you're patient and you just wait it out.
Scott Walker on the report. Navarre is 20-7 as a starter. That'd be good most places. This year, the pants have mostly been dry. 20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He's improved a lot on the road, which was his problem before.
Well, Chris, if you're a Michigan fan, you hope John Navarre watched Thursday night's game when Miami beat Pittsburgh and Ken Dorsey used the tight end, the running back, the wide receivers, all of his weapons to win that big ball game. That's all he has to do today.
Watch the second half of that game.
Second half, but don't put too much pressure on himself.
The criticism has been unfair for John Navarre. They have not been able to run the football this year the way Michigan expects to run the ball. It's put more pressure on their passing game and more pressure on John Navarre. And in this game today, Michigan will not be able to line up and run the football. If they win, John Navarre will lead them to a victory by throwing the ball.
You might say ditto for Ohio State because Craig Krenzel's had to step up and make plays.
That's what it's about.
These guys, some have to kind of come out of character maybe and be a little spectacular. The Buckeyes have taken the field in the horseshoe. We'll talk to Krenzel. Of course, more on the game plans and predictions ahead.
College Game Day is brought to you by ESPN.com. To buy Michigan, Ohio State, and other College Game Day hats, go to ESPN.com and use keyword search College Game Day hats.
A year ago, Warren Harding High School for Maurice Clarett. The great start this year, but only 18 carries in the last 4 games. The AC joint, the nerve injury. Kirk, how's he feeling?
There's been a lot of speculation about how Maurice will come into this football game and be used, and had a chance to talk to him yesterday. He said early in the game you're going to see Lydell Ross and Maurice Hall come into the game and start for the Buckeyes. Ohio State coaches are making a very wise move. They're going to wait for the Michigan defense to make adjustments to the first couple series and then insert number 13. I asked him, are you going to be able to run the way you did against Purdue? or are you going to run the way you did against Washington State? He said, I've never been as excited for a game as I am for this one. He's either going to play one play and give it everything he's got, or he's going to have a game where he runs with the same kind of authority that he had when he ran early in the year.
Kirk, this is a first guess, not a second guess, based on a lot of years in coaching, including 10 of them in the Big Ten. I always worried about a skill position player coming back in a big game without being hit. I mean game-type hitting. As we said, Claret, 18 carries in 4 games. That's not enough. I hope the Buckeyes are not hoping that this guy's going to carry him today, because I don't think he'll do it.
He's had some fumbles, but I think
he's very fired up.
His performance, when he ran well, kind of made up for the fact that this offensive line for Ohio State has been a real source of concern, even though the season's 12-0. Your dad calling you. I mean, a lot of these Buckeye fans are worried about it. They don't get the push. They jump offside. Pass protection issues today.
Big issues up front. And I think whether you have Maurice Claret in the game or you don't, because of the offensive line play and because of Michigan's front seven, they're much better than the Ohio State offensive line. The Buckeyes will have to throw. We've been touching on it all show long. Craig Krenzel will have to throw, especially on 1st and 10, to alleviate some of that pressure, and then go back to whether it's Claret, Ross, or Hall. Yeah. But you're right. Craig Krenzel with that offensive line's got to try to soften that blow.
They say it's their best game of the year, the offensive line. As a coach, you better hope so. If you're an Ohio State fan.
Step up, block somebody.
Hey, guys, the Heisman ballots are in the hands of the voters. Still 3 weekends of games remaining. It is wide, wide open. So we asked some players around the country on Game Day Q&A who they would vote for if they had to vote for the Heisman Trophy today.
It's been such an interesting year for the Heisman. There are so many great caliber athletes.
Byron Leftwich, because he's a good quarterback, and he made some big throws.
Watching those couple plays where his teammates were carrying him down the field, I think that takes a lot of heart.
I like to see Brad Banks get the award. He's a tough player and really goes out there and plays, every Saturday.
I say Larry, definitely. I mean, he's proven that I think he is the kind of running back that the Heisman really stands for.
Thank you.
Here's the Scripps Howard straw poll. Only 10 voters. They're regionally balanced. You see the first place votes. One note about Byron Leftwich. We get word he will not start and perhaps is doubtful even to play for Marshall today at Ohio U. That would really hurt his chances. How do you guys see this? We're going to look at your top 4, but give us some guys who are trying to make a late run.
Well, first of all, my vote right now, Ken Dorsey, Miami should win it. Now, let's take a look at a couple of other guys who might be sneaking around the chicken coop. First of all, it's Byron Leftwich. Now, Byron Leftwich not only is a great quarterback, but this shot right here, this ride, watch him. The offensive line picking up. That, ladies and gentlemen, is worth a trip to New York. Just right there. Now, Kingsbury, after a 2-2 start, he's coming on strong. But my friends, he nice touch on this next pass coming up here, Kurt. But I'll tell you what, he's got a big game against those Oklahoma Sooners in Norman, Oklahoma. I will see, my friends.
Kingsbury's got a great opportunity, but Leftwich isn't sneaking around the coop. Whether he plays or not today or not, he's been around for a long time. You look at this Heisman Trophy race, I really have given up weeks ago on trying to figure it out. Nobody's emerged. Each week I try to give a guy and think about, well, especially with Ken Dorsey, he's winning, and then he struggled last night. And Brad Banks, the more I look at it, the more I think about what he did. He led the nation in passing efficiency, 25 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. The Iowa Hawkeyes are playing as well as anybody in the country. I think Brad Banks right now is the front runner. The problem is he's in the clubhouse while all these other guys are going to be playing. Brad Banks is done, and that could hurt his chances.
Last year, Crouch won the Heisman on 2nd and 3rd place votes. Edged out Grossman. That could happen this year. Will Dorsey be in a lot of 2nd or 3rd place ballots if they don't vote him number 1? Yeah. That's the key question.
Could be a career.
Coming up, we'll talk about the play. It's been 20 years since Cal shocked Stanford to play unfolding, just like Drew Cap drew it up.
The brilliant thing about the coaching that took place was that you know how hard it is to get a Stanford trombone player to be at the right place at the right time?
Tradition, brought to you by the Tostitos Tournament of Champions, the 1987 Miami Hurricanes, or the 1971 Nebraska Cornhuskers. Who's the best ever? Vote on ESPN.com, and you could win a trip to the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl.
105,000 lucky witnesses hoping to leave the shoe with a magic memory today. You know, it was 18 years ago today. Flutie to Phelan, the most famous offensive play ever to end a college football game.
Uncorks a deep one for the end zone. Phelan is down there.
Oh, he got it!
He got it!
He got it!
Touchdown! 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 Touchdown, Boston College! He did it! He did it! Flutie did it!
Of course, there was a more famous or infamous finale 20 years ago this week. If Game Day had been around back then, we would have been at number 2 SMU versus Lou Holtz in Arkansas. It was a 17-17 tie, November 20th, 1982. Stanford-Cal might have been a footnote. The Cardinal and John Elway needed it for a bowl, and they were in great shape with 4 seconds to play until the most amazing, sensational, dramatic, heart-rending, exciting, thrilling finish in the history of college football.
Good.
We now relive the play and revisit the controversy.
That was
Oh, the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone. He's going into the end zone. I'll tell you, this was one of the most remarkable finishes you'll ever see. 8 seconds to go. Listen to the crowd. Here's the snap. Here's the kick. It is long enough. It is good. Stanford hits it with 4 seconds to go and takes the lead 20-19.
Game over. Game is over. Game is over. No doubt in our mind. Looked at the clock. I noticed there was 4 seconds left.
You could almost feel the air going out the balloon on our sideline. Guys were, you know, their heads were down, throwing the helmets. I threw my helmet and eventually lost it.
The only thought was, are we going to kick it out of the end zone or are we going to squib it? But immediately, you know, you're thinking, this is it. It's done. Now just take care of the last 4 seconds. 4 seconds. 4 seconds. 4 seconds.
Only a miracle can save the Bears.
I got everyone together in the huddle and I said, here's what we're going to do if you get the ball. Pitch the ball. Keep the ball alive. Don't fall with the ball.
We set up to do a squib kick, to put the ball on the ground so it would bounce around a little bit, run out the remaining 4 seconds.
Obviously, there was some skepticism and people looking at me like I was crazy. There's only 4 seconds left in the game, but that was our only hope.
We figured it's going to be a squib kick, try to take it back for a touchdown. Touchdown on 3. Ready, break.
All right, here we go with the kickoff. Harmon will probably try to squib it, and he does. Ball comes loose, and the Bears have to get out of bounds. Rodgers along the sideline, another one. They're still in deep trouble at midfield. They tried to do a couple of... The ball is still loose as they get it to Rodgers. They give it back now to the 30. They're down to the 20.
At that point, you know, I start to notice the Stanford band on the field. And my first thought was, hey, put your head down and go.
I've never seen anything like that. Nobody ever has, where a band interferes in a play on the field and gets involved in it almost. And so it just stunned me. And that's why I just let it go so wildly. You know, the band is on the field. I just couldn't believe it.
Oh, the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone. He's gone into the end zone.
When I realize I'm in the end zone is when I kind of start my celebration. And unfortunately, the trombone player happens to kind of pop under me right as I'm celebrating, and he kind of got the brunt of my celebration.
I turn around to, you know, to find our drum major, and then just one more time I turn around, and that's when I just got nailed. I had no idea what had happened, what was going on behind me.
The brilliant thing about the coaching that took place was that, you know how hard it is to get a Stanford trombone player to be at the right place at the right time?
Oh, the band is out on the field.
You know, I almost had the sense, without saying it, that I'd swear he nailed Terrell on purpose, because he was 5 yards deep in the end zone by the time he dropped the ball on poor Gary's head.
I barely felt it. You know, I was kind of floating on air at that point. I realized I had gotten in the end zone, jumped up, he happened to kind of stroll in front of me, hit him, and then I just kept going on my celebration.
It did not hurt. I bounced off the AstroTurf, was wearing a hard hat. That came off, but I was able to gather that up, gather up my music, and just carry on.
He's going to go into the end zone! He's going into the end zone!
I just lost it. I lost it like I've never lost it in any sporting event I've ever covered, because to me it was just the zaniest, most bizarre and unheard of play that I'd ever seen at any level of sports.
The Bears have won! The Bears have won! Oh my God!
To this day, I won't tell you that we've lost that game. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we won that game 20-19.
They'll probably say that my knee was controversial.
Dwight Garner was down. And there's no question in my mind, 20 years later, as it was 2 seconds after he went down. He was down on that play.
I had the best seat in the house. I'm the person he pitched the ball to. He was not down.
He knows the truth. The truth is out there, and Dwight knows he was down, and it's time for Dwight to admit that.
And I guess if I had to think about it, and if I look at the film, I've thought about it again. Nah, I wasn't down. We won. We won.
The second thing that was wrong on that play was that Moret Ford's lateral was not a lateral. I think it was a forward lateral. I think he tossed it at the 29 and it was caught at the 26 by Kevin Moen or something like that.
3 days after this great game, Stanford put out a phony Daily Cal, the daily California newspaper that goes on campus, and said that the play has been reversed by the NCAA. The touchdown didn't count. Stanford officially wins 20-19.
The headline on it said, NCAA awards big game to Stanford. And there's a picture of Coach Cap down at the bottom with the quote, "Life isn't fair. I swear to God it isn't fair."
And I can remember going on campus at 8 o'clock, the 8 o'clock class, walking at about 7:45, picking up one of the Daily California and looking at the headlines and being stunned to the point where I ran to the athletic department to find out what was going on. And everybody said, no, it's a hoax, it's a hoax. And it was pretty good. And for a brief moment, I thought that they had overturned it. I was scared to death.
The most amazing, sensational, dramatic, heart-rending, exciting, thrilling finish in the history of college football.
It certainly was a great play for college football, and it was great for the rivalry. But I look back on it, and it was wrong. It was the wrong decision by officials. It was the wrong outcome to an otherwise great game. And some of us were robbed.
To this day, they will not admit the final score is what it is. They still list it as 20-19 in all Stanford records.
Just live with it, I mean, it's life. You win some, you lose some.
California has won the big game.
Michigan or Ohio State. One side today is going to perhaps feel Rodney Gilmore's pain. Maybe not for 20 years. Can the Wolverine defense stop Craig Krenzel? We'll talk about it next.
On Campus, presented by Outback Steakhouse. No rules, just right.
There are 15 Ohio natives on Michigan's roster. B.J. Askew, Grant Bowman, who's playing with a rod in his leg and wants it so bad today. But it's pretty unusual to go the other way. There's only one Michigan native on Ohio State, and that is quarterback Craig Krenzel. Every time this year they needed a big play. The throws against Wisconsin, Purdue, the scrambles against Illinois. Krenzel has come up huge. In his first career start, he beat Michigan. Can he go 2-0 today? Here's Mark Schwartz on the atypical roots of the Buckeyes hero.
Some of the greatest Buckeyes were born and bred in the shadow of the horseshoe. Heisman winners Hopalong Cassidy and Archie Griffin, both raised in Columbus, as was Terry Glenn, Keith Byers, Orlando Pace, Chris Carter, Chris Spielman, all natives of the Buckeye State. But this year's quarterback, Craig Krenzel, is from a place that makes Buckeyes fans skin crawl, Michigan. Michigan?
Do you realize you're the only player from the state of Michigan on this entire roster?
Yeah, I mean, I know that, but that doesn't really mean anything. We had another one, but he transferred, so. If somebody's meeting him for the first time, I always tell them, ask him what state he's from, you know, and everybody gives him a little grin, but, you know, it's just funny that, and ironic that he's from that state.
You know everyone's from all over the country, but you never realize exactly where they're from, and you never really think about that, but maybe we should be checking his sleeves for things.
When you say you're from Michigan, that freshman year in camp, you got to say where you're from, and it's from Michigan. You get a kind of double, like, what's this guy about?
Craig Krenzel strikes Holy Buckeye!
I couldn't imagine growing up 30 miles away from Columbus and going to Ann Arbor. I don't think I'd ever be able to return home.
This is like Joe Pesci in the movie My Cousin Vinny, a New York lawyer trying to win in an Alabama court. I mean, what chance does a kid from Utica, Michigan have here in Columbus? Not to mention the kinds of reactions he gets from the folks back home.
I've seen the hate mail he's getting, too, from guys from Michigan. But I'm glad to have him. I'm glad we stole him.
Has he shared the hate mail with you guys?
Yeah, we were laughing at one yesterday. It was pretty funny.
What did it say?
Nah, I can't tell you. And, I mean, this is a family show.
Krenzel grew up just an hour from Ann Arbor, but his favorite teams were Notre Dame and Tennessee. When it came time to choose a school, it came down to Michigan and Ohio State. Krenzel says the choice wasn't that difficult.
I think one of the bigger things, I kind of wanted to go away for school. And, I just at the time I felt, like I fit in better at Ohio State.
Drew Henson was there at the time, and it was close to locking up the starting position, and it was only a sophomore. So I think his best bet, to play college football at a high level was to come here to Ohio State.
Being from Michigan, I've had no problems down here at Ohio State. I've actually, people always tell me how glad they are to see a Michigan player come down here and play.
Of course, when you're sorting through hate mail, a word of encouragement never hurts.
Can Krenzel step it up one more time today, Kirk, against a Michigan defense that leads the Big Ten with 36 sacks? What's his approach?
Well, first, I think if Ohio State wants to go back to their bread and butter and running the football, Craig Krenzel in the passing game is the key. Michigan has a clear advantage up front. If Ohio State wants to run, they've got to be able to throw early in the game to try to slow down this Michigan defensive line. Because think about pass protection being a key. Last week against Illinois, after Illinois scored, Ohio State had an opportunity here. And look at the pass protection against the blitz. The backs pick up the blitzing linebackers and safeties, and Craig Krenzel actually has time to throw a football. And when he has time to throw, there's Michael Jenkins. He's made the plays in one-on-one coverage. Marlon Jackson from Michigan will cover him. Will he have an opportunity to go up and make plays for Ohio State? Will it be typical Ohio State close to the vest, or will they open it up and kind of go against the tendencies? I think it's the latter. I think you'll see Ohio State throw to set up the run, and that'll be a big key in this game.
Now, after Michigan established the running game, then watch them attack the two-deep Ohio State zone right up the middle. And the key receiver there is Benny Jopru. Now, Benny, number 83 against Illinois. Watch the focus and concentration now there. Now, besides offense and defense and special teams, Old Michigan's got a secret weapon. Listen to this one, Kirk. Lloyd Carr is 6-0 versus top 5 teams. Listen to this one, Kirk. Lloyd Carr is 3-0 against teams he's beaten when they were ranked number 2. Ohio State is number 2.
He's pretty good at revenge games, and they've lost the previous year, if you want to throw a stat out there. I got a very important name for you guys today, all right?
Yeah.
Sam Gemetro.
Who?
Sam Gemetro. He's the senior sousaphone player who will dot the I in Script, Ohio, the Michigan game. Imagine the excitement for him.
That's good.
All right, we're going to come back. These folks have waited a long time for this game and for these predictions. Can Ohio State get it done? Sam's on stage, ready for action. Predictions are straight ahead.
On Campus, presented by Outback Steakhouse. No rules, just right. Today's show, presented by Discover Card. It pays to discover.
And welcome back. Jay and Tyke, the Herb Street Twins have gathered. We'll start with an easy one, fellas, okay? Rutgers and Notre Dame. What do you think?
Well, Rutgers has been hanging around, Lee, but at Notre Dame, they're on their way out to USC. I like them today. What do you think?
Jake likes Notre Dame, too. He always liked the Catholics, so Jake does.
These guys, even these guys, know Notre Dame should beat Rutgers. Time now for this big game. It's been a build-up all season long. You know the recent